Simon, welcome back.
Jared, Gaz, good to be on.
How have you endured the first couple of weeks?
Yeah, I think you summed it up incredibly well. You know, the first week was certainly one of great optimism and positivity in terms of the way we played without getting the result clearly. And the second week, you know, there weren't too many positives. You know, we didn't show up in all phases of the game and you walk away bitterly disappointed. So, you know, we're 2 weeks into a pretty long season.
The fifth quarter.
We wondered whether we'd get storylines, Jared.
Yes,
Got a couple.
So the fifth quarter on Sunday, if you had your time again, would you have left the Max Gawn references out?
Oh, I should have put a sock in it, shouldn't I? You know, I just didn't get it right. You know, it's I certainly would have for sure. And you know, I think as a coach, you go into this protective mode. You know, I love the big fella. I love everything he's about and what he does for our footy club. And I didn't articulate it in the way that I certainly would have liked. And as soon as I walked out, I knew that, you know, I had to go and speak to him pretty quickly. And he was fine. He knew the place that it was coming from. And to be clear, there's nothing wrong with Max. He's fine. And it certainly wasn't to diminish the game that Tristan Cherry played. Like, he was unbelievable, where I gave him 5 coaches' votes. And, you know, if I had my time again, I certainly wouldn't go there. But, you know, as that coach, sometimes that protective mode comes out.
So when you went to Max, you went, oh, you're not going to believe what I've done here?
Yeah. And he just gave me a hug and said, it's all good, we're fine, we'll keep moving forward. That's the type of relationship we have. We have great care for one another, and we're not going to get everything right. We're imperfect in what we do.
And the other storyline to come up was that it was a deflection, that you're trying to deflect from the performance, which I'm sure you weren't, but yeah, that's what you open yourself up to.
Yeah, you do. You open yourself up. And as I said, because it wasn't articulated well and it was left for everyone to have their own interpretation, that's what happens. You know, people see it in a lot of different ways and a lot of different stories come out of it. A lot of different meaning takes place within it. So, as I said, we're imperfect, but we move on.
The last quarter, so we watched you, three-quarter time address up to the box, and then so quickly you can see things are wrong and you're downstairs. What are you feeling in those moments?
Yeah, I think the response early in the last quarter was a story of the whole game. You know, in terms of especially the start of the game, it was a really clear start to the game. We were losing centre bounce and we were losing contest behind the ball. And in the first quarter, North, you know, kicked points. In the last quarter, that trend started. I want to get down amongst the boys, get around them. But they were winning centre bounce and scoring. And by the time I got down, you know, I think they kicked 2 goals in a minute and a half and the game was pretty much dead.
The frustrations from the way that the game unfolded would be familiar to you, about your kicking, your forward line connection, your inability to isolate. So is it one of the issues your best ball winners are now some of your poorer distributors? So your kicking efficiency of Oliver's at 54, Petrarca's 57 and Viney's at 50. They are going to win the majority of your footy. How do you deal with that?
Yeah, look, every team's got strengths and every team's got weaknesses, but we also know that we're trying to move the ball differently than what we had previously. And for big parts of the first, 2 weeks, we've been able to move it in a way that's getting a little bit better. You know, for 3 quarters on the weekend, we have, 36 entries for 18 scoring shots. In the third quarter, we lose our shape, we lose our formation, we go back to some bad habits. And, Charlie Conlon takes massive amount of intercepts and we don't hit the scoreboard. And Gary, you'd be like, a frustrated supporter that says this is the same trend, and until we start to show that improvement consistently over a period of time, that'll be the narrative, and we understand that, we acknowledge it.
So why? I'm playing the advocate of this team. The Charlie Conlon, who's 6'11", he's sitting in the hole and you keep kicking it down his throat. So when you put that to the playing group, look at this stuff. When you put that to the playing group, what's their response? Are you telling them Melbourne's taken the least amount of contested marks over the last couple of years other than North Melbourne? Why all of a sudden are they going to become a contested marking team in the third quarter? That's 3-on-1 to Charlie Spargo.
As I said, we lost our formation ahead of the ball and, we're trying to move the ball differently. And as I said, in that third quarter, that wasn't a reflection of what we're trying to do. That was a little bit of the old way where we're just jamming it in and putting ourselves under enormous pressure. So we've still got work to do. We're a work in progress in that. And as I said, until you start to see it, that narrative will continue. And we understand that. Sorry,
not specific to Melbourne, because we don't want to make this a Melbourne review every couple of weeks. But from a coaching point of view, we had Brad in here about their defensive O's. And when it keeps appearing, that's a reflection on coaching.
Yep.
So how much responsibility you take? Do you question yourself on whether or not you're coaching it properly?
Oh, look, the first thing is to acknowledge that we've still got work to do, and And all pre-season, we've sort of shifted in the method about how we want to play in all phases of the game, but offensive is certainly one of those things. You don't challenge yourself yet. You know you've still got work to do. You know, for 7 quarters, we've been able to move the ball a little bit better. We've been able to enter the ball that little bit better, and you're looking for growth. There's parts of our game that there's growth. 3rd quarter, not to the level.
You started with 5 debutants and a newbie at Melbourne, so I must admit that caught me a little bit off guard. That was a major shift. So the attraction in doing that for something different, what's the challenges also in doing that and finding the right level of cohesion?
Yeah, and what you said there, cohesion's the biggest word, is to find that cohesion, and that does take some time. And I guess what we're talking about in the 3rd quarter, a lot of the newbies play up in the front half of the ground. So, yeah, it brings a level of excitement and a level of energy to the group. But you know, you want to make sure you can execute your role to a high level all the time, and we've still got work to do in that space. But you know, we're going to persevere with some of those guys. I think they're outstanding young players, and obviously Jack Henderson and Aidan Johnson are more experienced players, but we think they add a lot to our group.
I thought the most interesting part of that was you're not trying to recapture an old idea. So you're not trying to restore a team that won a premiership and finished repeatedly top 4. So at what point in the off-season do you go, okay, so we have to evolve into something new rather than healing and repeating?
Oh, it was pretty clear at the back end of last year, we just can't keep rolling out what we're doing. We need a summer to try and change and evolve and explore. And our coach has done a wonderful job at looking at what's the best thing for our team and the players that we've got at our disposal, and how can we do it to the best of our ability. And as I said, this takes time, but we're committed to the process. We're committed to finding a new pathway forward for this team. And we're 2 weeks in. And we've seen already in this competition that there's some real ups and downs in the first 2 weeks, and our challenge now is to what happens next, and the response is the most important.
How do you scout a side in the Gold Coast Suns who have played just the once and were impressive enough for us all to look at it and go, wow, but you don't really know what they are?
No, we don't. We've obviously seen them once, and they were absolutely outstanding. We've also seen them against Sydney in the pre-season game. So we were lucky enough to play them in round 23 last year up there. So we've got a little bit of information. We've been able to have a good look at last time we played and how that played out and what we need to be good at. But you know, first and foremost, I think what you want to get back to is what are the things you can control in the game, and one of the things you can control is your intensity in contest and pressure, and that's where most teams have started on their fight back.
Do you get angry?
Absolutely, you do. You get disappointed. You know, the first thing you do when you lose the way you lose is what are the things that you could have controlled as a coach? You look internal first. What are some of the things that did I get that bit right in the week?
So did you coach? Do you think you coached well against North Melbourne? What's your assessment on that?
I think we lost our shape ahead of the ball, right. And losing Jefferson early in the game made that a little bit challenging. Is
that on you? Is that on the forward line coach, or is that just on the coaching group?
Oh, that's on everyone. We all own that together. Right. We lean into that vulnerability, and clearly when you lose the way we lost, of course it's coaching, and we put a hand up to that.
What's the latest on Stephen May?
Stephen May will be available. Yeah, no, he's got to train tomorrow, but we're really confident that he'll get up and play, and we'll start getting some players back, which is good for our footy team.
Good luck. We'll see you in a couple of weeks.
Thanks, guys.